My name is David Madison, the 4th of August 2020. I'm an ex-clergy atheist, and I have collected more than 380 book titles into what I call the Cure for Christianity library, in homage to Mark Twain's famous comment that the best cure for Christianity is reading the Bible. Now, there are a lot more books to help with that, and these books explain in detail the falsification of theism, Christianity especially. Please tell your Christian friends they have a lot of homework to do. They haven't noticed. Just type Cure for Christianity Library into Google. These authors have stated the blunt truth, hence this series of videos, Cure for Christianity Knockout Quotes. This is quote number 28. One of Robert Connor's books is Apparitions of Jesus, the Resurrection as a Ghost Story, in which he says this, quote, "Every essential feature of the resurrection stories, sudden appearance and disappearance, the fear and confusion of witnesses, the empty tomb and tokens found within it, speaking, eating, and drinking as proof of life, tangible presence, the brevity of appearances, the display of post-mortem wounds, encouraging and admonishing, every essential feature is also found in contemporary Greco-Roman ghost stories." Christians turn to the Gospels to read about the resurrection, but the very first person to write about the resurrected Jesus was the Apostle Paul, who wasn't one of the original apostles at all. And he was emphatic that he didn't get any of his information from human sources. He had visions, hallucinations, of the dead Jesus speaking to him. Paul doesn't mention the empty tomb and doesn't report the stories of Easter morning that turned up decades later in the Gospels. Mark's Gospel was written about 40 years after the death of Jesus, with Mark and Luke later and John even later than that. Where did the Gospel writers get their information? There were very few, if any, eyewitnesses left. Jerusalem had been destroyed by the Romans. New Testament scholars today concede, although the folks in the pews don't know this, that the Gospel writers fashioned their stories from Old Testament examples, from, yes, their imaginations, and by drawing upon the literary forms available to them in the first century, including, as Robert Connor has pointed out, the contemporary Greco-Roman ghost stories. It's really hard for scholars to point to anything in the Gospels and say, yes, that bit preserves a genuine historical memory or a fact. This becomes terribly obvious when we take a close look at the resurrection accounts in the Gospels. They're in conflict all over the place. Who went to the tomb on Easter morning? How many went? What did they see? What did they do afterwards? The Gospel writers were winging it because they didn't have any real information. Robert Connor also points out that no one actually saw the resurrection happen. Wow, that's a big flaw. There were no eyewitnesses to that. Why weren't the disciples camped out at the tomb on Easter morning to see it happen? Jesus had told the disciples 3 times that he would rise from the dead. 3 times. Yet when the women rushed from the tomb to report to the disciples the big event, this is what we read in Luke 24:11. "But these words seemed to them an idle tale, and they did not believe them." Well, you know what? Neither should we. The Gospel accounts are indeed idle tales concocted from Greco-Roman ghost stories. Priests and preachers claim, of course, that we have to have faith that the stories are true. Does that work with ghost stories? Robert Connor has provided a knockout quote. The New Testament has given us folklore, not fact.